That's someone called Eurasia. Eurasia, is that it? Yes, thank you very much indeed, Damien. Damien is there. Damien is looking after us here this morning. You're with Destination Uri. It's the morning program. I'm Rowan Hand. This is Feargal McCormack. Our money corner, our finance corner, our fiscal guru. There you are. How are you, sir?
Good to see you, Rowan. I'm fine.
Lovely
thanks.
to see you. You always brighten the place up. You come in on a magic carpet of sunshine. That is your tie, and
Good.
it's lovely to see it. You look good. What about mine? Mine's more subdued today.
I think I was commenting as I walked in here. I said, Rowan Hand could put us all to shame. You'd think he was a sergeant major. The shoes are shining. I can't say the same about myself.
Oh, you're fine.
My aunt, my aunt Sheila, who was a great character, Sheila McAnulty, long gone now.
God bless her.
Sheila had a famous saying: "Always judge a businessman by his shoes."
Of course, of course. Well, she was totally
By the
wrong
way, the
there.
polish of his shoes.
Because she's totally wrong there. Because I'm the worst businessman in the history of business. I tell you.
I don't know that. You have flair and creativity.
All I can do is to talk at the early hours of each day in this place, and I do it with a great enjoyment, I have to say. Things have moved. There's figures trickling through to us from the shopping at Christmas, and they're not good. Footfall is down by almost 7% or more.
Yeah, I think that is concerning. It's highlighting the trend towards online shopping. I think actually, to be honest, we mentioned this in our previous discussions. I think for somewhere like the Greater Newry area, the key always is dare to be different.
Yeah.
And personally, I think you can get the product online, right? But if you wish to link the product and the service,
Yeah.
that's where going into the physical shop and meeting the person and getting what I would call aftercare service. So I think that you're seeing changing trends, and I think that that's a challenge. But every business sector moves with trends. So I think that the danger is that our shops have to avoid being the shop window for online, where people come and look at something in the shop and then go and purchase it online. So I have no doubt that people are moving. I think that even in this area, you have a number of people making progress themselves and being creative in online shopping. For example, I think young Garrett O'Hare is looking at that whole area at present, doing well.
Yeah, he's doing very well there. It's nice to see it, indeed. McParlin's across the road in Monaghan Street, they're online shopping to the world. I'm sure there are others.
Oh, yeah, no, there are. I mean, certainly, I think Jack Murphy Jewelers have been doing it for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Gold Diamonds Ireland
Going
or
out,
something.
yeah.
And in Dundalk, you had Brian O'Neill doing it. To be fair, at one stage 10 years ago, he was doing, I think, a level of water for crystal sales that the whole Eastern Board of Ireland weren't doing.
Wherein lies the balance, Feargal? Is it at its extreme, darkest prognosis, it's the end of shops as we know them? Or is there a formula that shops and shopping centres can adopt in order to go forward, embracing the new trends?
Well, I'm not a retail expert, but I think if you look at the bigger trends, ultimately business is all about people. And literally, if you think about it, if you even think of the coffee shops now, which are doing very well, you wouldn't have heard of a coffee shop 10 years ago. They were very rare. There were more bakeries as opposed to coffee shops.
There were, of course.
And therefore, what I'm saying to you is, yes, trends will change, but those who can interlink the person with the service or the product ultimately will succeed. So I think you will see that people will perhaps decide that certain things, high volume, perhaps even low value added, clear product, will go down the online route. But equally, I don't know about you, but personally, I have never bought a computer online.
No,
because I like to be able to lift the phone and ring my supplier and say, something's happened, could you help me?
But I'm the living proof of you.
I wouldn't buy a car in Amsterdam. Some people do. The reason why I don't buy a car in Amsterdam
is you can't walk into the garage next day or a month later.
More importantly, I'm not a DIY kid. I have no interest in mucking about with messing it, fixing it. No. Every man does his own job. So there aren't, that's why there's diversity, and there aren't two Fergies, thankfully.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, everything will find its medium, but we have to recognize that technology is a major factor in today's world. Online business is here to stay. So it's how we adjust to that, but at the same time, mix. And the one thing I find frustrating, I have to admit, is that I find frustrating when you ring somewhere and you get this famous tone, put in your number and then, press 1, 2, 3, press 1, 2, 3. I think somebody's going to break that. And whoever breaks that then will make a fortune, because I think there's a lot of very positive things in online shopping. You're not caught in car parks, you're not caught in traffic. It can be delivered at your home at any hour. And there is no doubt about it that the whole area of online shopping has come on to a level one could never envisage. And I think obviously you're going very shortly. If we're being honest, you're going to the telephone. You're going basically to doing everything by telephone. People are doing that at present. People are doing their bank accounts. People are managing.
That's true.
And eventually you're going to see people managing their shopping on their telephone. But there will still always be room for people. And sir, so therefore it's how you get that blend. And I suppose, Rowan, that concept of people, I was thinking coming in today, and there's one very common denominator. The best companies employ the best people. And it doesn't matter what sector you're in. It doesn't matter if you're online or retail, whether you're accountancy or insurance or law. The best companies employ the best people.
Because the people are the company.
Yes, and thankfully, nobody yet has been able to create something that wasn't invented by the person.
Yes.
We may have to use technology, and it's very important, it's very important we do use technology to enhance the competencies of man.
Yes.
But somebody somewhere had to create that technology.
Absolutely.
And therefore, we should never underestimate the power of people. And I think going forward, no matter what line of service, whether it be retail or service business, manufacturing, it's daring to be different, but equally recognizing that the best company employ the best people. And therefore, if we look at the importance of people and the cost of people, and that's a two-sided sword if you think about it. I actually visited the company yesterday. I have to say, not in this area, I was unbelievably impressed. Each employee had 5 corporate objectives, which were linked to the corporate objectives of the business.
Wow.
But they had one personal objective. So they had to link between 5 to 7 of the things they did, their targets for the year, were linked to the corporate objectives of the business. But they also have to list one personal objective. At the end of the year, they were being judged against those things.
If the practice of shopping retail is changing, becoming more cyber linked, and people going into companies are becoming more and more computer savvy. Are we finding that the educative system in our area is turning out the right kind of people, or are they still in the old ways?
No, I think to be fair to education has been aware for some time of the importance of technology, and you can see it every day. And again, I'm rather reluctant to talk on a subject that I don't have detailed knowledge of, but I think to be fair, there is a recognition that technology is very important going forward and the utilisation of it. However, in terms of Northern Ireland, we have a shortage of technology people at present. But Rowan, if I can go back to the core principles, because ultimately core values must drive your business. They must drive your vision. If you think about it, one of the things I think we said right through the difficult recession was businesses that adapt, that are flexible, will survive. And therefore, it doesn't matter what sector you're in. You can't solve tomorrow's problems with yesterday's systems. So we can't say, oh, this is going to die or that's going to die. We've got to say, how do we keep ahead of the game? How do we copy what's happening elsewhere? How do we apply what some other sector or some other business do, take it into our business and do it slightly better? So I think the big message is, there is no good crying back and saying things are changing. I think more important is to say, let's embrace change. Let's be flexible. Let's be adaptable. And there's one sure thing, the core principles of business that existed 1,000 years ago still exist today. If there's a demand and a need,
you meet it.
And basically, we have to always look at what the demand and the need is. Now, I think the big lesson is, and I go back, because I want to get back to this theme today, the best companies employ the best people. And if we're being realistic in any of our businesses, take my own business.
Yeah. You were expanding recently.
Yes,
getting more
thankfully.
people in,
Yeah. We've
you know.
just taken off. We've taken on actually 2 new staff
Yes.
this week.
Yeah.
But the issue I'd say to you is this: that somehow we have to have a recognition, both on employer and employee, that this has to be a joint mission. The mission for the employer is that you will leave that organization a better person with more skills than you joined it. The mission for the employee has to be that he or she will add to your business during their stay.
Yeah.
Now, this all comes back to passion. Passion's a key word, Ron. I believe that if each of us do whatever we do to the best of our ability, we will be happy. We'll be able to look in the mirror tonight, and no matter what the result was, it's irrelevant. What matters is we did the best we could.
Yeah.
And there are some people not doing that. And those people aren't happy. And those are the people that cause problems, employers' problems. And that's the disease you have to eliminate. You have to get people to come in positive. Because I heard a lady on the radio last night saying her son had trained as a mechanical engineer, as a diesel engineer for 2 years or something, and he'd done another course. He was only getting £12 an hour. Well, I didn't mind whether he's getting £2 an hour or £50 an hour. What I was really concerned about was she wasn't trying to tell me what the output of his hour was.
Yes.
Now, I think we need to get away from this philosophy that we're getting so much per hour to we're getting so much linked to market demand, what the market is willing to pay. A lot of us like doing things, but maybe that's not what the customer wants. So therefore, coming back to the point you made on retail, I think we've got to try and understand, which is very difficult. There is nothing more difficult than trying to keep ahead of customers' intentions. And it's amazing. You know, I was surprised. I was in a restaurant on Sunday when I whistled, and one of the waitresses I was talking to, you know, it's amazing when you're working somewhere when you pick up market trends.
Yes.
She could tell me the weeks, virtually as we were talking, the weeks that over the years they do different things because they know there's certain weeks in the year that things get quiet.
Yeah.
Equally, I have to admit that I was surprised to realize my ignorance that perhaps one of the biggest days of the year, if not the biggest day of the year quite often in certain areas, and yet in other areas it's dead, is New Year's Day.
Yeah, yes,
now, I personally would not have thought New Year's Day.
No.
But that's trend. That's trend. Basically, families of people going back to university, going away, and believe it or not, it's a massive day for the family to go out for family lunch.
That's interesting.
Now, I must admit, if you'd asked me that, I wouldn't have picked that up. But that's what I mean by the nuance of seasonality.
Yeah.
The nuance. There is no
That's an interesting
substitute
phrase.
for actually walking the rope as opposed to talking it.
Yeah.
But then it's how you apply that.
Yes.
It's how you apply experiences or observations in different businesses, different sectors, different life. So therefore, I come back to our theme today. The empirical evidence proves that no matter what your sector, no matter what your organization, that the best in class, the best in performance, the best in practice have one common denominator. They employ the best
people. Yeah, I can see that. We're heading, also best practice takes us also into collaborative and cooperative efforts. And the end of the month, we're seeing the cross-border business conference taking place. Newry Chamber of Trade's involved in it, and all the business support agencies are involved. Newry and Dundalk meeting to share their experiences and to see how each can live economically in a kind of togetherness of progress. Is there sufficient of that occurring, would you believe?
Well, I think it's important to build on it, and there has been very good work done in that area over the years. I think it's key because I think if one adopts a parochial view to business, you will fail. The reality is that Newry in isolation and the greater Newry area would only achieve limited output. People are very important. Volume and mass people is important. If you think about it in terms of this, you have Belfast, you have Dublin, you might also say you have Derry, and you might have Cork and Limerick, Galway. The only other conurbation for establishing a mass of people, which ultimately has a knock-on effect both on business, on education, on health, on infrastructure, is Newry Dundalk. And the key point for Newry Dundalk is to convince Down District under the new combining of the county, and equally Monaghan and Armagh, that they can achieve more together than linking to either Dublin or Belfast. And the reason being that if Newry Dundalk can be the centre, the greater Newry and greater Dundalk, I'm talking here going out to Newcastle and out to Louth, if they can be the centre, they can create ultimately a new joint city. Joint cities create universities. Joint cities create hospitals. Joint cities create technology hubs. Joint cities require infrastructure services. And therefore, the big lesson, I think to be fair to Newry has recognised this a long time, that Newry can achieve far more by the sum of the parts with Dundalk, and so can Dundalk. Because whatever way you look at this, is not a political thing. If you draw a circle around Newry, or if you draw a circle around Dundalk, in any area, if you cut half off, if you go to Carrickfergus in the morning and cut half their catchment area off, it can't survive. The reality is the Newry Circle includes the south. The Dundalk Circle includes the north. And the reason why both have a difficult economic times is simply because, very simple, among other factors, they're both operating at the peripheral of the budget setting area, which is Dublin or Belfast. It is really important that they create new visions, new structures that create interest across the world.
And I think if you observe the physicality of Newry and Dundalk, southern Newry and northern Dundalk, sure, they're converging all the time.
They are, and I think this is, we quite often knock people, but I think this is a really important point. I think that the twinning of Newry and Dundalk has been a success. Yes, there is much more to be done, but you got to remember these things happen over time. I think there is excellent examples now at local authority level, and again we knock local authority level. I think this is one area they're making excellent progress, and I believe this is an area we should continue on with great speed. I think it's the area we can add an awful lot. We can enhance the quality of all our lives, and indeed the economic prospects of the area.
Peter was in with me the other day, Peter Conway. Record year for Warren Point Port, a year in which Larne took a hammering, a serious hammering. Not that Warren Point's taking any joy out of Larne's misfortune, but the reality is Warren Point is on the up.
Well, again, it's just fact. If you look at the island of Ireland, it's ideally located. It's ideally located in terms of the haulage sector, the logistics getting into the port. The challenge, obviously, for the port, and Peter's done a superb job, is to make sure they're competitive, to make sure they can provide the backup support services, and they're obviously doing that very well. And certainly Warren Point Port is one of the jewels in the crown, and is recognised in any form of economic strategy or policy that transport, logistics and ports are a very good indicator of what's happening. And Peter would tell you better than I, the Dublin port about 2 years ago was the key to show that the Irish economy was starting to pull through. Dublin port, whenever we were saying things were going desperate, Dublin port was showing trends of outputs going out, materials going out of the country, which actually weren't being seen then in actual stats.
But you have been talking about, ever since I started talking with you about these matters, trends have been your mantra. The nuanced trends that are occurring and the wisdom to spot them and to be ahead of them.
Well, all of us have to keep reading. We have to be aware of what's happening in the world, because what's happening, to be honest with you, in China today, it could be in Newry in 2 years' time. Equally, what's happening in Newry, the marketplace is now global, and that is proven again by the online shopping, the online business you referred to. And it's how we adapt to that. We certainly can't simply say, oh, I'm not adopting to it. We must embrace change.
Warren Point's doing well. You're getting the public realm scheme, and you've got 900,000 for the park redevelopment. Happy days in Warren Point. And also today, that fellow Simon Hamilton, the finance minister, he's now supporting the bridge, for God's sake.
Well, good. Two things on that. Simon Hamilton, I have to tell you, is a very impressive minister. I've met him on a number of occasions. I think he's a new type of minister. He's a very impressive guy. And I think in terms of Warren Point, I think the development at the municipal park is to be very welcome. I always am surprised by the negative people at times in the area. You know, you judge an area by feet. All I'd simply say is that there are few people who live in Warren Point who ever leave it. And therefore, you hear people saying, oh, what's happening here? No money being spent here. It's amazing if you look at the seafront who's walking around at night time.
Absolutely.
It's amazing if you look at those who are fortunate enough to realise the treasure that Warren Point is, that they can get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and be in Dublin and Belfast for 8 within an hour and 10 minutes.
Be back to the ocean.
You get me? So, you know, make no mistake about it. Obviously, Warren Point, like anywhere else, must continue to develop and improve. But its natural resource is phenomenal. It has so much going for it. And one of the things, maybe again, we always say, you hear negative comments about Warren Point gets nothing, Warren Point this, Warren Point. I actually think this is back to parochialism, which is not good. If Warren Point gets something, it's good for Crossmaglen. And similarly, we have to get away from narrow parochialism. Yes, we must build on the sense of belonging and the sense of place, because that is what creates motivation. That's brilliant. And but we have to make sure it doesn't inhibit our openness to go forward.
And the nautical saying, the rising tide lifts all boats.
Well, it certainly does.
That's what you're heading towards.
I hope the rising tide lifts me this morning, Ron.
You're heading off to important business in Belfast today.
I'm in Belfast today, yeah, and I'm looking forward to another day, and hopefully, perhaps through good effort, we can make a difference.
Well, that's really the beginning, the middle, and the end of it all. Making a difference for the good.
Thank you very much, Rowan. Thanks.
Bless you. Feargal McCormack, music maestro, please.